Hmm. Good morning, everyone. All right, so we have started with the conditional statements yesterday. I've told you that there are three different forms of the conditional statements as if, and then switch, and the third one is ternary operator. Now, right now, we are going to study two of them, which is if and switch. Now, ternary operator is something which we are going to discuss a little bit late, till the time your programming knowledge would be increased and you would understand, or maybe you're clear with the basic syntax of the Apex programming. Then, of course, we're going to discuss about how the ternary operator looks like to be. And first of all, why it is called as the ternary. Because when we say ternary, there are three things. Binary is two things. So ternary means there would be three things into that syntax. And we're going to see that as well. Don't worry. So the next is if else, else if statement. Yesterday we have covered if plain and then if else. Now we have else if statement. Now what does it means by the else if statement? See, try to understand this concept. If you have multiple conditions to be get checked, particularly, like for example, if you have one if, within that if there is one condition. So if that condition would true, this particular statements inside this block are going to be get executed. But if it get fails, usually what happens is like, after if get fails, control goes to the else block. So yesterday what we have seen was this only, a pretty simple thing where there were only two blocks, the block of if and the block of else, block of if and the block of else. But now, if there are some other multiple conditions, like for example, if this condition would get true, this is something which is going to be get executed. Whereas if this condition is not true, we don't want it to simply branch directly to the else block. Rather, we wanted to check for few more conditions. So it's something like you have few conditions. If this condition is false, check for condition 2. If condition 2 is also false, check for condition 3. Similarly, few more conditions. So whenever after one if we wanted to introduce more if, after one condition, in simple words, after one condition, we wanted to check for some other conditions as well. Then we prefer else if. Right? You can directly give this as well. It's not that much compulsory like your C programming that it should always follow with else if. But it is always advised, that if you have multiple conditions and only one else block, only one else block, that else is going to be like default else. Like what is the role of this else in this case? It is something like if all of the conditions, like condition 1 and 2 and 3, if all of them, get failed, and then we as a default output, if we wanted to print something, that default, we are going to put it into else block. So this else would become a default block if all of the condition mentioned above would get failed. Let me try to show you something. I'll take one program. This is pretty simple. If two numbers are being put up, like, let me try to explain you this, but I'm going to take a second example. This one I'm going to take, but you first of all understand this. So if in this example, as you can see, I have defined two integer variables with the name, first number and second number, and we have also given them the value. Now I have made one comparison over here. I have make one comparison. If the value of first number is double equals to is a comparison operator, by the way. Single equals to is the assignment operator. When you wanted to assign the value of right hand side to left hand side, right hand side, you wanted it to assign to left hand side like this. You have assigned 1222500 this value to first number. Then we go for single equals to, and single equals to is the assignment operator, right? So I was talking about this. So this is double equals to, which represents the comparison operator. So here compiler would perform a comparison that if the first number equals to second number, are the values of both number are same. If it is, it's going to print this message. Both number are equals. Both numbers are identical. Else if it's not true, then I have few more conditions to get checked. What are those? I wanted to check for if, second if after if. So the first if you have one more if, you have to give it inside else if. Else if the first number is greater than the second number, I'll print that first number is greater. And finally, if both of the condition would fall, neither the numbers are equal nor the first number is greater. So this actually means the second number is the bigger one. So this is one simple example, where you can see the use of else if statement. And if we want, we can even perform something called as nesting. So where exactly we do the nesting and where exactly we use the else. So there is only one difference into that. Let's first of all see this. What does it mean by the nesting of if condition? So when you already have one condition, but still in one if, you introduce some another if along with the else block, then we particularly go for the nested if else. Just give me a moment, guys. Let me bring some water for me. 1 second for this. Yes. So we can also do something called as nesting of if statement, wherein you have one if, the major one. And within this if, see, this is what is a block of if statement, isn't it? This is what is a block of if. Now, within this if, within this if, I wanted to check for few other conditions. And for those conditions, if this condition is true, let's say you wanted to check that, whether a student, is of final year, just try to understand whether a student is of final year, and let's say he is above 18 years. All right, he's above 18 years. Second, guys, I'm making few changes to my system. All right. So let's say, for example, if I mean, due to certain reasons, I wanted to check for two things regarding to a student. What is the age of student and in which year he is studying? Let's consider if he is above 18 years and he is a student of final year. So we can ask him to go for the internship or maybe on the college trip. All right. So I would first of all would check for if the age or maybe if the student is of final year. That's my first condition. He has to be the student of final year, and then only I could ask him to go on internship trip. So I would first of all would check for this. The first condition is the students should belongs to final year. And if he belongs to final year, when I would enter into this block, I would check for the second condition. Now let me check if the age is above 18 years. If the age is above 18 years, I'll write down a statement, yes, he is eligible for this trip. Else, I would write down a statement, no, this student, because he's a minor, so we cannot bring him into the trip. Or maybe he would require a consent form from his parent. The student, because he's an 18, he is something a mature person, and he's above 18, he can take his decision by own. So we don't require a consent form from his parent. All right. So this was just an example. Else, if he's not a student of final year, we'll come to this block of else. And here also, if you wanted to check for certain condition, you can even put inside the else also. You can have if you have that much of nesting. All right. So this is something called as the nesting of if else statements. Now, what is a big difference between nesting and else if? For else if, there is only one else that considered to be the default one. If this condition was true, if this condition is true, this is going to be get executed. Else if you have something else to be get checked, so that is going to be checked inside else if. If all of them would get failed, then we have one block of else statement. One block of else statement. So that is what is the difference between else if and nested if else, right? So we have this program. Let's try with this. This one is a good program, a good example, rather, I will say. Now with this program, we would first of all would ask, as usual, what we are doing from, I think previously two examples we have solved in the same line of the same type. So we have to enter five subject marks for a particular student. We're going to calculate the total, and we're also going to find out the average marks as well. Now there's a condition that find out the student's result in a way like student is pass if he got more than 40 marks in every subject. If this condition, this is the main condition, if this condition got failed, if student, even in the one subject, if we have below 40 marks, we'll have to say that you are fail. And if you are fail, we also have to show the total marks and then print the student results, whatever. If he's passed, then also we'll have to do this, right? Now, if he's passed, we're going to calculate the average. If he's failed, probably that time we're not going to calculate the average because we don't have anything related to average while student is failed. And based on that average, we're going to calculate his grade. So if the average is greater than 60 or equals to 60, we're going to print as grade A and accordingly this, all right? All right. I don't have much time to type this program. What I can do is like, let me copy, paste it, and I will show you. We're going to discuss that over here. So I'm going with developer console. In the developer console, I'll go with execute anonymous window. From my keypad, I have pressed Control E, right? This is the shortcut to go to execute anonymous window. So see this program, we have defined a few of the variables with this name like mass in the English and all, total and average. And in the subjects, we have given them hard-coded values. Now we have calculated the total as well. See, wherever in this, let me give you this command. I'm giving you this command. You can unmute yourself wherever you feel that you wanted me to repeat something, because I have copied and pasted this. That's why. If I would type this, I'm going to explain it line by line. But because I don't have that much of time with me, so I copied and pasted. So wherever you feel you wanted me to repeat certain point, you can definitely unmute yourself and say it to me. Now, I hope up to this everybody is clear, right? Now I have imposed one if statement wherein yesterday also similar kind of statement we have used. So we're going to check for the marks for every subject. So because that is compulsory, in every subject he should score 14 above. So the marks in mathematics as well as in English as well as in Hindi and in every subject, it should be greater than or at least equals to 40. And to check for every subject, we have used and operator, logical operator, one logical and. So when we have and between one condition one and condition two, it means that both of them has to be satisfied compulsorily, right? So this is what does this if is actually doing. Now, so first of all, if in every subject, if he scored above 40, at least 40, so we'll make an announcement that you are passed. And this is your total marks. Otherwise, if this condition would get fails, so I would say that no, you are failed, and this is your total marks, isn't it right? So that's simple thing. Now, because if he's passed, we first of all would require to calculate the average, which would be like total divided by how many subjects. There are 5 subjects. So this is what you get, and you printed it. And now, let's now go with this particular block. So if the student has scored above 60 or at least equals to 60, so we have to give him a grade called A for this particular range. Above 50, like it should be 51. And equals to and above 50. So from 50 till 59, smaller than 16, so 59 would be grade B. 40 to 49 would be grade C. Below 40, he's failed, right? So if the average marks is greater than equals to 60, grade A. Else if, why? Because I have to check for other conditions as well. Else if the average is greater than 50, maybe it's 51, or it's greater than equals to 50, or sorry, it's 50, and it's less than 60, and up to 69, 59. So you have to print like grade B. And similarly, if the average is greater than equals to 40, but it is below 50, maybe 40 to 49, that time you'll have to give grade as grade C. So wherever we have after one if you have multiple if also, then always go with else if. If you have one common else, if you have multiple if and else as well, then go with if else. Then go with if else. Maybe we do have certain examples over here where you can go with if else. Or this is similar program for else if. This one is also. So go with this all. Go with this all programs. Maybe you're going to find some example wherein you can put the nested if else also, right? Yes. Next, then let me try with the switch statement. So switch is, it's up to you. Like you can use nested if statement, nested if else, or you can make a use of switch statement. You can make a use of switch statement. So sometimes people found this as more feasible to them. Sometimes they are more comfortable with nested if. It all up to you. Like it all depends on like how much you have practice on the same. And after practicing few examples of nested if and a few example of switch statement, what you have found, what is your thought, that all depends, right? Sometimes people use switch very frequently because they thought this is, they are under this impression that this is very easy to use. Whereas in some of the cases, people would use if else. If you would ask me, I use both of them. I don't have any single dominating criteria for this. I make a use of both of them. Sometimes I use switch, sometimes I use nested if else. All right. So see, what is a switch statement? First of all, let's come to the syntax. Switch, and then we have on. Switch on, but they are two separate words. Both of them are combinedly the keyword. In the switch on, you have to give the condition, expression, variable, where you wanted to make a switch. After that, you have to open a block, and every block starts and ends with curly bracket. And then we have another keyword, which is actually a combination with this is when. So we have like, when the value is one, if for example, you have written when, switch on value one. So it will go to value one. Your value two, value two. If you haven't given anything, then it goes to when null. And if all of them condition would false, if it is even not null, and if the value what is given is maybe like value six, but there is no value six, value one, two, three, whatever, the value was not six. Even it was not null, so it goes to when else. So else, this when else is the final block, the default block. All right. So this is like the syntax. Now let me show you one example. I mean, this example, let me just try to copy and paste it. But I haven't executed this, right? Oh, I haven't. Let me execute this first of all. So we have entered this marks. The student is having his pass, by the way. All right. So let me first of all make an execution of this program. Please don't copy and paste. I'm doing because my focus is more importantly is to make you understand about this. You please don't do that. If you would do this, right, you are betraying yourself. आप अपने आप को ही धोखा दे रहे हो, right? So please don't copy and paste, right? So you have failed. Why you have failed? Is there any marks? Oh, 19 is there. Why? That's the reason he got failed. Let me make it 91. All right. Now let me execute this program once again. Go to debug only. So you have passed. This is your average marks, total marks, and that is what is the grade, right? So this was all like this. Now, let me go with this program and let me show you like how we can make a use of a switch statement. See, so I have defined one variable with a name called weekday number, wherein I have given a value as 2, right? Now I have defined one switch statement, switch on this variable name weekday. So if the value is 1, let's say if I'm not giving the value for now. I'm not giving the value for now. If the value would be 1, it would go to this block and it would print Monday. If the given value would be 2, it goes to 2. It print Tuesday. If the given value is 3, when 3, it goes to this block and print Wednesday, and simply like this. If the value what you have given, okay, I'm not including when null. If apart from this, apart from 1 to 7, right, the minimum value is 1, the final value is 7. If apart from this, any value other than that would become, so it goes to when else, and it would print that invalid week number. Please enter a number between 1 to 7. So let me show you, for example, if I would say 19, which is not there, and if I would try to execute this program, so it goes to invalid, and please enter a number between 1 to 7, because the number what you have entered is, we don't have a number, it's not being included, right? What are included? Up to 1 to 7. So let me try with a number maybe like 4. Now, if I would execute, it has to go to this block when 4 and print it's Thursday. It's Thursday. So when you have so many conditions, understand, when you have so many conditions, 10 condition, 12 condition, 20 condition, going with nested if else becomes a little difficult that time. And you can assume this. You can assume this. If I have 20 conditions to be get checked, every time going with else if for next 20 times, it becomes a slightly difficult. So that time, we prefer switch statement. When we literally have So many conditions. But if conditions are very few, maybe two or three or five, then we can easily design one nested if else block, right? So there's nothing like, this is good and that is worse. No, it's not like that. It all depends like what is your own thinking about this? What is your own impression about that? So sometimes, when I found that there are beyond five, six, seven conditions, I'll rather prefer going with the switch statement. If I would found there are two or three conditions, then I'll not make a use of switch. I'll go with that nested if else. All right. So it's like something, you first of all would have to have certain practices on this. And based on that practice only, you could decide what to use, where to use. Right. So go with this all examples, guys. You have so many of them. You have so many of them, and this much is sufficient. I'm telling you that. See, this is also one of the format wherein you can just club for a few more conditions, right? It's not always that you'll have to give one condition over here. When for a group, for example, if it's a month, is between 1 to 4. The season for one for from one matlab like January, February, March, April, it goes like winter. So you literally don't have to check when one winter, when two winter, when three. No, you can even club them. You can form a group when the values falls between 1 to 4. So it's winter when it is 5, 6, 7, 8, separated by the commas. So you can even do this as well, right? And this was not possible with C programming, by the way. C programming was highly procedure oriented. You cannot have this type of facility over there. If it doesn't fall, you can have a default block as well, right? So go with these all examples. There are so many of them. There are so many of them. This would help you out to build up your practices. And practice is very essential ingredient, is a very essential component of getting the hands-on the development. There is no shortcut. Understand? Believe me, there is no shortcut for this. You really wanted to be pro into this. You wanted to become somebody like a good programmer. There's only one thing which could bring you the skills is the practice. You have to fetch out certain times for this. If you are not doing this and you are pending, keep things pending with you, and you are convincing to yourself कि ठीक है चलो आज नहीं मैं कल कर लूंगा परसों कर लूंगा weekends पे कर लूंगा because we have Saturday and Sundays. So you are actually making fool, you are fooling yourself, and this would not going to help you out because we have a series like after this development integrations would be there, after integration deployments would be there. I'm not going to wait for even one day. As you have seen, like I've ended admin and immediately with the next coming session, we started with the development. So it's going to be like this only. And you ultimately, फिर आपको बचा हुआ portion का practice भी तो करना है ना. Maybe right now you have two jobs with you. या आप admin revise कर रहे हो. At the same time, you are doing development as well. So this is going to be increased, right? So don't keep the things pending with you. Try to complete all the assignments, every questions, whatever in the notes. Try to do it in the day itself, right? By the next lecture, I'm going to start with the iterative statements. So these all are whatever we are learning right now is the basics, till the object-oriented programming. As and when we reach with the object-oriented, as and when we reach the object-oriented, from that moment itself, your actual programming will going to be get started. After object-oriented, and there's a concept called as ORM, object relationship and mapping. So after this object oriented and your ORM, object relationships and mapping, ORM, your serious programmings are going to be get started. So you have few days, only few days, maybe 2 or 3 to make a practice on all these basic things, all right? So please don't keep things pending with you. And that's all for today. Yes, any questions you wanted to ask, please go ahead. Any questions? Yes, guys, any questions? Any questions? All right, then. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good day.